means if it's in the program files folder, like your Valve and Steam or whatever, then you could run into issues. It's not guaranteed though. Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly what causes errors sometimes. It's very, very strange. But this method seems to work, so that's why I'm showing it. Go to local disk. It's going to be C for you probably. Steam, Steam apps, source mods, test mod, SRC. Click it so it's blue here and the folder's open. That basically saying that that's the folder. I'm not gonna name the project. Scenes, just put scenes. That's the name of the scenes folder. And here where it says source images, put material src / models, just like we had it in here somewhere. If I can find my locations, material src models. I don't think it matters which way the slashes go, but I could be wrong. Everything else, just leave alone. Should not matter for this sort of exporting. Hit accept. That should set it for Maya completely. So if you have other projects, you'll have to change the project for whatever you're doing or whatever. Okay, now we'll actually get to the importing of the model. What we're actually doing is we're taking the knife that Valve has created and throwing that into Maya for the purpose of grabbing the base skeleton that's used for first-person view animations. You'll see this in a second. Actually, you can see it right there. That skeleton there sort of looks like 2 arms and hands, or fingers. When you import that MDL file, the knife T reference file is what you want to import. Import the SMD. When it says find knife T, just hit cancel. This won't create the texture correctly for you. You don't need the knife texture because we already did a texture, and it wouldn't work anyway because we didn't UV map to those specifications. So it will take a while for this to compile. Pral's exporter is not the best in the world, I should note. The next step is you get this little pop-up box. You want to change the orientation to not that. But that's alright. We can test this anyway. If you hit Model Z up, it'll mess up, depending on what you have here in the I'm gonna delete this part and I'm gonna redo it. Okay, so go to knife T, go to File, go to Import SMD that just showed up because of the Pral's exporter, and then find your knife T reference.smd that you extracted from the knife T model. Then when it asks you for a texture, don't give it anything. Do World Z up. And if it looks weird after you do that, do Window, Settings and Preferences, go to Settings, go to Up Axis Z, save, and you can change it later afterwards. I believe it has something to do with the way source engine modeling is done. They just like the Z-axis up. The next step, you go back to File, go to Import. What you want to do is you want to find your knife model. So here's tutorial knife 5, big ass sword. And remember what I said about textures, that you have to make the texture in the material SRC folder, but I'll get to that in a minute. What you want to do is hit the space bar so you can see all the views. You want to put this knife in the location of the knife down there. And then what we're going to do is parent it so that it will move with the hand, basically. And I'll show the skeletal setup in a second. So what you want to do is you want to use a scale tool. It's a scale tool, 6 from the top, the square with the 2 little things on it. Scale this down to the size of the knife. I would drag from the yellow because it does it evenly on all sides. Move this down. Remember that Z is down now. You can rotate this. Make sure it matches up on all ends, otherwise you're going to get something really weird where it's parented in the wrong location, and it could be coming out of his arm or something. So I'm going to scale that up a bit, move it there, look at the top view. Make sure you use all 3 views because you're dealing in, or all 4 views because you're dealing in 3D. When I modeled this, I did not realize at the time that my hilt, per se, I mean the handle, is a little short. So don't do this in your model, but for the sake of this, I'm going to go in here. I'm going to right click, click faces. I'm going to use the selection tool, first one at the top, for this thing here, which I'll have to show in another movie, in the editing. Select those 2 faces, use the movement tool, and stretch this out. Now the reason I say don't do that is look at the model. That's the first reason. The second reason is you're going to stretch the texture, which is typically a bad thing to do. So naughty me, I'm actually going to stretch it about this far just because I want this to look at least a little better so I don't have to redo it. And I'm going to actually scale this to be a little larger. Note that if you make your knife model too long, you're going to make a mistake in your idle animation, which I'll show when this is all done. Okay, so that's in position. Go to Window, Window, go down to Outliner. You'll notice several things. Transform 1, you can delete that. SMD Mesh is your original knife. I would delete it just to keep it out of the SMD file. Poly Surface 3 is your toy sword. And this P-Plane 1, if you remember from one of the first tutorials, is actually our sketch right down there. Just delete it. You can delete that layer also.